Vyrah reporting for duty. Another time together. We're gonna do some reacts. We're gonna watch some YouTube together. To be honest, let's just check it out and let's just see how it goes. Let me just check if it happened once and now I have. Okay, I have my sound. Everything should be alright. Let's check it out. So for today I've got like a couple stuff. One, two, okay. So first off, I don't know if so first off, let's check out Fake Keeper. This is a trailer, like, I don't know, like, let's check it out. It seems to be interesting. Okay, let me just check if my sound. Okay, perfect. So, let's check out Fate Keeper. Official gameplay announcement. It's been released not too long ago, like the trailer. So let's check it out.
Como tan okore aratakura. Zanto kakoran shipa. Zentu nema kun. Kitoma. Uchi kitoma. Lebok. Jolgo fan kurabakut. Utagarun shoklitantifa, Zendakan Paritoma. Kotaktu. O tu makumbak druoko.
Damn.
Itanku barakitan. O krotuka koranchi. Falumak hokre oritoma. Dokuchi, Washikotan. Utan ketoanshi. Utan Veta Keeper.
Okay. Okay, so the story, I'm gonna be honest, doesn't fucking like makes me vibe or feel anything at all. Like, oh my god, like this is really something that doesn't makes me feel anything. But the graphics and the gameplay are actually look really fucking interesting. Like, this is actually quite fucking like quite the fucking thing. Maybe a little slow, but these are like some basic combat presentations, but it looks like interesting. Like, the graphics are like absolutely magnificent. Just look at the details around this. Just look at the details of this dude getting fucking butchered. Like, this is absolutely like, wow. The temples, the creatures, like, wow. This is absolutely beautiful. Like here you can see like where the animation that they use. I don't know if it was an animation that I really liked. This one. Look at that. He put poison on the blade, and he put poison on the blade. Wait, like this. He put poison on the blade, and the blade glows green. It's really fucking cool. Will it be like a fucking like a game that will change anything? I don't fucking know, because so far the fucking story, like some people basically so far that's what I understood. Some people came, they were not nice, and then other people came, they were not nice neither, and then you came, you're not nice either, but you know what? You're someone a little nicer. So I don't know, but like other than that, like I think that like it can be like an interesting game. Uh, okay, let's check out this. This monster wants to eat me. Like something new on Crunchyroll. Uh, Wait, I found something more new in called Crunchyroll. Let me just. I'll keep this. Okay. All right. So, this monster wants to eat me. Let's check it out. Let's check this out.
地獄のような光景を見た。指一本動かせない。それなのに私の心臓は高鳴っている。君を食べに来ました。私、人ではないので。どうして私の名前？私のことよりひな子、今朝一人で大丈夫だった？爪の一枚すら余さず食らい尽くしたい。人間にだって食べ頃があると思いませんか？今すぐ君の皮を剥いで。やだ、何これ。ひな子を傷つけるやつは私が許さない。私一人くらいいなくなっても。本当に君は何も分かってない。なんでそんなに死にたがっているんです？ひな子の大親友の八代美子です。私を食べてくれるって本当なの？お気をつけて。私を食べたい人でなし。
Okay, so this is the type of anime that is really like the storytelling type of anime. Sounds really like not that fucking complicated to fucking understand. Although I really don't get what the fuck is going on. She's fighting something, like what the fuck? Maybe like they got the bad infestation of fucking like insects in here. Like, this is the type of seasonal anime, probably will be a missable one. Maybe an unbelievable one, I doubt so. But like usually it's like maybe the story is really like cool and deep and stuff, but like really depends. It's a hit or miss usually this type of anime. At least from my perspective, it's either something really fucking awesome or really something really fucking forgettable. So I don't know. We'll see. I will completely skip this one to be honest. Like it doesn't really like that attracts me in any way. Like the character, the character design, like it looks great. Like the voice acting, obviously it looks great. But like other than that, not much to be honest. Okay, so this one I wanted to check it out. So if you don't know who is, oh my fucking god, I forgot. Critical Role. If you know which Critical Role, you will love it. If you don't know which Critical Role, you will probably love it anyway, because Critical Role actually do D&D campaign on Twitch, and they actually fucking like are like fucking beasts. Like they're like fucking awesome doing it. But they not only do that, but like overall they do Dungeons and Dragons campaigns live in front of basically in in their own like thing, but like it's recorded on Twitch and stuff on online, and basically they made a fucking TV show. So this is actually really fucking thrilling. Like, let's check it out.
Tent. I told you, officer. What were you doing in that tent? I told you, officer. We were just passing through. We paused for some entertainment.
And leaving trails of bodies is entertainment for you, sicko.
You got nothing on me. I didn't even have a weapon. Unless you count these pythons.
You guys, this is just like a true crime novel. Two hot-headed dicks cranking up the pressure on the perp until she breaks. Ooh, which one of you is the bad cop?
I'd take this seriously, miss.
BT Dubs, your handcuffs are super janky. The ones Mama uses are so much harder to get out of. And fluffier.
This is profiling, you racist assholes! Well, maybe not you, big boy.
The goblin and the hobo? No fucking way. I work alone.
I swear, their bodies changed.
Ich weiß von nichts. Why would I turn the audience into reptiles? They pay my salary.
Technically, you should give us a reward. Maybe a parade.
Wanna give me a cavity search? Make sure I'm not hiding anything?
Shut up! We didn't find any reptile corpses, and a dozen witnesses saw you blow open the hole so the creature escaped. You're clearly some kind of criminal gang. Now give me a name for the booking sheet.
Oh, our name?
Fuck off.
Keiner von uns ist ein Teil einer Gang.
Oh yeah, we are called the Sensual Seven.
There's only 6 of you.
Don't forget the Traveler.
Okay, this is interesting. I guess it's a sneak peek, so maybe I'm guessing like there's more than just like interrogation. Sounds like an interactive type of like, you know, like TV show movie. But no matter what, they are talented story writers, Critical Role. So I'm pretty sure that like this will be interesting. The characters are varied enough and colorful enough. Other than that, like nothing much to say, but a good sneak peek. Season 1 means probably season 2. I'm really hoping that like they're able to fucking like do something, because like Critical Role has been like something like that a lot of people really didn't got the chance to enjoy and see. This is what I was talking about. Here you can read Critical Role, and that's the thing. Yeah, like maybe it will bring more people to Dungeons and Dragons and all the stuff, and actually bring people to discover this type of storytelling. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, the Mighty Nine. That's interesting. Okay, now let's okay. Now let's get back to some WoW. I've been like craving to react to someone to actually just like watch WoW YouTube videos. So yeah, let's check out from our good boy Matt Season. So secrets and summon secrets and summon bosses within WoW. This is really cool. There are many secret bosses in WoW. So let's check it out.
Hey guys, what's up? Mad Season here, back with another video for you.
I just want to check one thing. Okay.
Throughout World of Warcraft's history, there's been a bunch of secret or optional bosses in the many dungeons and even raids, so in this video, I thought I'd show you them and the rewards they give if it's something cool such as a mount or a toy. Everyone's definition and standards of the word secret will vary, so I'll start with what I think to be the most secret, and then I'll work my way down, getting more lax the further we get into the list. A lot of these, particularly the ones that you summon, have been simplified over the years, and they no longer require the quest chains or reagents, but for the sake of keeping things as interesting as possible, I'll go over everything in their original state. So, first up, we have the High Inquisitor Fairbanks in the Scarlet Monastery dungeon. This one is a classic right here. He's no longer a boss in the game, but before the revamp of the dungeon, if you went to the cathedral side and facing the final boss, you instead took a right into this little side room. If you look carefully, there's a secret here. If you click on this torch, a secret room will open up, revealing an undead NPC named Inquisitor Fairbanks, who is an optional boss. Kind of ironic, since the Scarlet Crusade has this whole cleanse the world of undead thing going on. You normally just killed him for loot, but he also had some special dialogue regarding the corrupted Ashbringer, which was believed to have been planned to be put into the World of Warcraft way back when, but it was ultimately scrapped. He was the advisor of Alexandros Mograine, and witnessed him being murdered by Renault Mograine, who was his son and final boss of the original Stratholme Cathedral side. He spread word of Renault's betrayal, and those who listened to him would form the Argent Dawn faction, but ultimately, he was murdered by the Scarlet Crusade on the grounds of blasphemy, and his corpse was dragged into this chamber where he lay ever since. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. Still though, a cool secret boss with that classic torch revealing the secret room shtick. Next, switching.
Yeah, I remember this one. This one was, it was such an, it wasn't a secret at all, to be honest. But like, after all the time that passes, yeah, I guess it is like, within the rules of what's secret and then what's not, it is a secret, yeah.
To the current game for a second, we have Kasumath the Hungering in Legion. On the surface, this guy isn't too hidden because you can just find him in the uninstanced Eye of Ashara in the Broken Isles, but the story behind him reveals one of the biggest secrets in the game actually. This guy wasn't in the game at the expansion's launch. Rather, he had to be summoned through a very hidden and specific set of steps that only the most clever and adventurous of players first found. To meticulously go through each and every step would be a disservice to the whole mystery, and if you want a full guide, there's plenty on YouTube, but it involved talking to NPCs, finding a special hidden item on the ground in some random cave in the middle of nowhere, and from there, clicking 10 orbs spread throughout the Broken Isles in order, with the orbs themselves being super hidden away in secret caves. Some were hidden behind brush, others hidden in underwater caves, and when the first person to figure out this puzzle clicked all 10 in order, the entire server got a special emote pop up on the screen that an ancient evil has been unleashed, spawning Kasumath in the process. From here, anyone who clicked the orbs unlocked a world quest.
That's actually really cool that like everyone on a server get a fucking emote because someone fucking achieved something. This is really fucking cool. This is the WoW like.
To kill him, which either gives you a pet or a squid mount chosen at random and switching every 2 weeks. So get out there and take part in one of the coolest secrets in the game and get yourself some collectibles in the process. I'll have a link to a guide in the description if you end up needing it. Okay, so that was pretty involved, so let's slow it down a bit. The Black Fathom Deeps dungeon is quite the labyrinth with many side rooms. One that slips past a lot of people though is an underwater area below the path leading to the final 2 bosses. If you instead swim below the path, you'll uncover a secret underwater cavern which holds another boss called the Guardian of the Deep. This used to be a Threshodon named Old Syracuse prior to the Warlords of Draenor patch. I'm not sure why.
Threshodons when I was a kid used to fucking scare me the fuck out. These things, there was also like a shark or Threshodon in the Metro between Ironforge and Stormwind. You know the only one that you can target when you're watching the aquarium, right? It used to fucking scare me the fuck out just because of how just like mysterious it was. Oh, fuck.
Which holds a named Old Syracuse prior to of the Deep. This used to be a Threshodon named Old Syracuse prior to the Warlords of Draenor patch. I'm not sure why they changed it. Maybe they didn't like the model. Kasumath wasn't the only secret added in Legion. Another secret boss can be found in the Gnomeregan dungeon. If you progress through it to the final boss room, you can find a very tiny button on the structure in the southwestern side of the room labeled Push Me. Doing so will spawn the Super Saiyan God form of Mech Ginir Thermoplug, the End Ginir Omega Plug. No wonder the gnomes couldn't take back their city. During this expansion, this guy is quite the challenge. He summons an army of bombs that one-shot you, fills the room with electricity, rockets, and he one-shots non-tanks. You typically need a full party of 5 to take him down, but if you're successful, you and your entire party will be awarded with the Vial of Green Goo, which turns you into a leopard gnome for 10 minutes and has a 10-minute cooldown. Another secret and summoned boss is the Postmaster Malone in Stratholme. Throughout the instance, you can find these interactable mailboxes where if you click on them, they spawn some hostile postmen who attack you for tampering with the mail. If you click on 3 of them, however, the Postmaster Malone boss will spawn, and he drops some special loot, including a set even.
Yeah, I remember we were doing that because basically it was a free boss, not too difficult, because like back in the days Stratholme was like what not everyone like basically the routes of like Blackrock Deep and Stratholme and Scholomance were not actually finished routes. So basically when it comes to BRD, Scholomance, and Stratholme, back in vanilla, people didn't finish the dungeons because they were so difficult. They actually used to fucking like stop at a certain point because past that the bosses were way too harsh or needed a special like you needed a special key that no one had, or like there was like some challenging ways, and basically like, or else like let's say for Black Rock Deeps, it will last for like fucking 5 hours to actually like go to the Emperor Torsen. So basically, like, back in the day, Stratholm, you will finish back. So the route will be, you start at Stratholm, you go right, and actually you follow the route until you end up in the Scarlet Monastery type of like defense camp, and you kill the boss here, and that's where the instance that's where the dungeon usually where people usually finish the dungeon. That was one of it. The other is I just remember that like the last boss of the Baron that drops the mount, not a lot of groups basically like finished it. People were happy just like not finishing it because too difficult, just too difficult. Same with Scholomance last boss dropped epic loot, but the problem was way too difficult. Like, it was unbearably difficult to fucking get in here. And yeah, and same with Torsen. The last boss of Black Rob Depths, drops like also an epic drop, but no one fucking did it because it took too much time. It's such a fucking good team, and it was so fucking difficult. So yeah, like back in the day, like these instances, even UBRS, I think that UBRS people usually finished it quite often, but again, like it was quite a challenge. Like, this is something that like changed past past vanilla, where like every dungeons people actually like fucking finish them. Like, because in vanilla, so a lot of dungeons people simply like didn't bother because it was way too difficult, even for like experienced adventurers. But that was an interesting part where it was like there was like this hard mode that you could go further into the dungeon where no one will dare to venture, you know?
Mailboxes used to require keys, which you got from another NPC on the human side, but these are no longer required. He's probably one of the least killed bosses in the game, just due to people not knowing about him, but also because the mailboxes are spread out everywhere, so those who did know of him usually didn't go through the trouble anyways and going around the entire instance to spawn them, both then and now. But now you know. The next one that was a little hidden was the Infinite Corruptor in the Culling of Stratholm dungeon in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. This is a special boss that despawns in 25 minutes after starting the combat portion of the dungeon. On the route to the final boss.
Oh yeah, this one drops like the bronze Drake, like the Drake that everyone had back in the day. That was like a good time. Like, it wasn't too difficult, but it was challenging enough, I guess. But like at the end of the expansion, like everyone fucking had this fucking mount.
If you hang a left into this little back alley, you'll find the Infinite Corruptor torturing a Bronze Drake. And if you defeat him in time, you get the Bronze Drake mount as a reward. This was a fairly tough time trial back when the content was current, but today it's quite trivial. The next one, moving back to Legion, we have Nightbane in Karazhan. This boss was in the original level 70 Karazhan, and initially to summon him, you had to complete a lengthy quest chain, get some reagents, and an urn to summon him on the rampart side outside of the castle. You may have noticed that he's missing from the re-release in Legion. Well, as a normal boss at least.
Yeah, I remember finishing Karazhan and while going deep into Karazhan, never seeing this guy.
You can still summon him by following a cryptic set of steps, and you'll even get a mount called the Smoldering Emberworm for your troubles. Upon zoning into the mythic mode for the dungeon, you'll notice an emote that says, "The strange chill of a dark presence winds through the air." Throughout the dungeon, there are these crystals that you can click on, and upon seeing this message, you have 8 minutes to click on the first of 5 of these crystals, then the remaining 4, and then you talk to an NPC to summon the secret Nightbane boss. The first crystal is in the audience of the opera, and there's another right before the maiden fight. You don't need to kill her. One right after you kill Moros, one in the spider room, and one after you kill the curator boss. Each crystal adds time to your timer, and after clicking all 5, you have 5 minutes to get to Nightbane's ledge and talk to Medivh to summon and kill him. Doing this successfully requires a good understanding of the layout of the dungeon. I won't go into details just for the sake of saving time, but if you want to give it a shot, I'll have a link to a guide by a guy named One Legion TV in the description. It's actually really simple these days if you're in the right spec. Typically as a tank, you can even solo it, so you should be able to knock it out. A cool secret with a cool reward. Next, we have another summoned boss in the old Scholomance dungeon, and that's Kirtonos the Herald.
Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, so in the fucking zone of Scholomance, you could the undead, you could find blood of fallen heroes or something, and basically this is was the currency to summon it. You put it in the urn and basically you summon it, if I remember correctly. But this was in the both zones of the where the Scourge won.
Outside of the dungeon, you could find the ghost of Eva Sarkov, who is the
Or maybe I'm completely wrong about this
former
one.
head maid of the Vyrah family. She gave you a couple of quests. The first was to kill the butcher, Krastanov, located inside the dungeon, and to burn her remains, and the second was to kill another boss called Jandispirov. Returning to her, she gave you the third quest to kill the summoned boss, Kirtonos the Herald. You're given a reagent called the Blood of the Innocents, and you had to go through this little balcony tucked away in the little side room near the beginning of the dungeon.
Yeah, it was Blood of the Innocent.
The next step was to burn the blood in the brazier, which summoned Kirtonos in his gargoyle form, and from there you could take him out for some extra loot. It was actually a pretty tough fight as I remember. As a reward, you were given a special trinket that allowed you to see the undead residents of Caradero. You could also get a secret quest, and even buy some crafting recipes from the ghost blacksmith there. And if you wanted to kill Kirtonos again, as long as you completed the quest, the Blood of the Innocents would then drop from a mob inside of the dungeon.
Oh yeah, no, I was wrong. It was like something else
In the
then.
Cataclysm expansion, the old Sunken Temple dungeon was neutered a bit. There were a bunch of floors completely cut out of the instance, and a fake wall was put up to block the old entrance to this area. In this no longer accessible dungeon were a few bosses, one of them being a hulking troll called Atal Alarian. He was a summoned boss that was locked behind a puzzle. Also throughout the area, you could find these snake statues. There were 6 in total, they were clickable, and normally they just gave you a debuff when clicked, but if you clicked all of them in a certain order, you could summon this boss in the middle arena of the dungeon. It was south, north, southwest, southeast, northwest, and northeast, and it was a neat little puzzle that led to an extra fight with some loot. But no longer in the game, unfortunately. Next, in the Sethic Halls instance, you'll find the Dreadraven, Anzu, guarding the room to the final boss. He drops a mount on heroic mode called the Raven Lord, which is
This is like the most kinda Reigns of the Raven Lord is probably the most known rare but not rare because everyone fucking got it mount ever. Let's be honest, who the fuck didn't saw this mount before without knowing where the fuck it comes from? This is the rarest mount no, the most unrare mount out of every rare mount. Like it is like strangely stupid how this mount is so fucking popular and always has been since people were able to actually get it. Like it's unbelievable.
Cool, so he's pretty important. But originally, this room just
But gotta admit, like quite the fucking looks. Like the mount is fucking beautiful.
had the generic Arakoa patrolling around, and to summon Anzu, you had to be a druid. He was the finale of a lengthy quest chain involving a lot of globetrotting around the Outland, and at the end of it, you got a special item called a Moonstone that allowed you to summon Anzu. The fight itself was pretty unique, with bird spirits that would spawn that would give you bonuses if you healed them. And if you were successful, you got your Swift Flight form, and you got to keep the Moonstone to summon him as much as you want in case you wanted to farm that mount. Since the Flight form is now just trainable though, Anzu is up by default for you to kill anytime on any class. Next up, we have a fishing boss. In the old Zul'Gurub raid, before the Cataclysm revamp, there was a sort of secret fishing boss that you could fight.
I remember this one. I don't remember the details, but I remember that like you could summon trouble, like you could fish some trouble if you wanted. I used to raid in Zul'Gurub back in vanilla, so.
On the northeastern bank of the river, you could find a wrecked campsite called Pagel's Point, and if you searched it thoroughly, you could find an old tackle box with an item inside called Nat Pagel's Measuring Tape. This started a quest that required you to go all the way to the Dustwallow Marsh Zone on the other continent and talk to the fisherman Nat Pagel. If you give him this tape, he'll sell you a special item called a Mud Skunk Lure, where if you use this along with 5 mud skunk fish in Zul'Gurub, you'll summon the mighty Hydra, Gazrenka. You fished up these mud skunks inside the actual raid in the waters, of course requiring a group to escort you there since it was teeming with enemies, and you returned to the wrecked campsite, used the lure with the 5 fish, and Gazrenka would spawn and attack you. And if you killed it, you got some extra fishing themed loot, including the Fish Terminator, a harpoon, and so on. Next, we may as well talk about another Hydra since we started anyways. This one is Gazrilla.
Oh yeah, this one was also a special one. Everyone did Zul'Farrak, everyone knew Zul'Farrak, and this was no one knew about this boss in Zul'Farrak.
And it can be found in the Zul'Farrak dungeon. Located on the western side of the map, you could find this little shrine with a clickable gong. Originally, this needed a special mallet, and your only clue was written on ancient tablets, which would drop from the trash mobs in the instance. Clicking on these, you were told to travel to an area called the Altar of Zul to obtain a sacred mallet from a troll there, and then to bring this mallet to the top of the troll city of Jintha Alor, and use it on an altar there to infuse it with power. These areas were located in the hinterland zone, quite a ways away. For the mallet, you had to kill a troll named Kiaga the Keeper, and then just like the tablet said, bring it to the top of Jintha Alor, and turn it into the Mallet of Zul'Farrak. This was quite the trek, as the city was ginormous and filled with elites. Usually, it required a group to complete. The mallet itself was actually a pretty good weapon, a blue one-hander mace with some strength and stamina, and now that you had it, you could bring it back to the gong in Zul'Farrak and summon the Gazrilla boss for some extra loot. The next one I'm pretty sure isn't super secret since it was just a normal raid boss.
Let me just check one thing. Because I think like it used to drop it used to drop epic. I just want to check if it's true. But I'm not sure. Like, no, I didn't drop anything. Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Boss. But I still have to bring it up because this is some Scooby-Doo shenanigans right here. In this room in the old Karazhan raid from the Burning Crusade, there's a secret door that leads to a boss. Do you know where it is? Take a guess or two. Well, if you guessed behind this bookshelf, you're correct. Again, I'm sure a lot of people know about this, but I mean, come on, it's a secret bookshelf. How awesome is that? If you follow the path behind the shelf, it leads to the optional Terestian Ilhoof boss, and outside of his room some demons would perpetually spawn, but if you kill them, they would be gone for good, so there was a benefit in killing them other than loot. Another summoned boss could be found in the lower Blackrock Spire instance. Near the beginning of this place, you can find some clickable pikes stacked against the wall, so you loot these and later on you run into a boss called Highland Omak, and if you kill him, he drops his head. And if you bring both his head and that pike to this little ritual site found near the end of the dungeon, you can use the head to mount it on the pike, and it'll start a little mini event where you're ambushed by some ogres, ending with the Uruk Doomhollow boss. And next, we have the Shade of Hakar in the Sunken Temple. Nowadays, this is just a normal boss, but prior to Cataclysm, you had to go through a little quest chain to be able to summon this guy. You talked to a troll witch doctor named Yakinya in the Tannerus Zone, and he sends you on a set of quests to supposedly harness the power of Hakar, who's a blood god worshipped by the Gurubashi trolls. He asks you to capture spirits of some wind serpents in the nearby Fearless Zone, and after doing so, he asked you to find 2 tablets in the Zul'Farrak instance, so the first 5-man quest in the chain. You follow his instructions, and these tablets speak of another reagent called the Ancient Egg, which you could find all the way at the top of that Jintha Allure city that I mentioned earlier in the Hinterland Zone. You returned this to Yakinya, and he sent you to the Sunken Temple dungeon, and if you used this egg, you would start a little gauntlet where you had to fend off waves of green dragonkin, and at the end of it, the Shade of Hakar would spawn, and you had to kill it to trap his essence within the egg. The quest chain went on a bit further, and you found out that Yakinya actually tricked you and used the egg to rebirth Hakar into Azeroth, and you'd later have to correct your mistake in the Zul'Gurub raid.
Oh, this is actually fucking
Let's do
cool.
a few more summoned bosses since we're going over them here anyways. Next, we have Ironaya in Uldaman. She was locked behind a chamber near the entrance of the dungeon, but there was seemingly no way to open it. In the original, you had to take a side path through a small cave to grab an item called the Nakiv Medallion, and there was also an item dropped from the Trog boss called the Staff of Soul, and you combined these to create the Staff of Prehistoria, which you then used in a pedestal near the door to open it. There are a couple of references going on here. The names of the staff and medallion spelled backwards is The Lost Vikings, which was an old platformer game made by Blizzard. The medallion itself
It was basically the first game ever made by the Blizzard Entertainment.
is guarded by 3 dwarves from the game, and the sequence that plays when you put in the staff
It was a side scroller, so a 2D kind of like
you may recognize from Indiana Jones. The staff shoots a beam of light to the door, and Ironaya comes out Kool-Aid Man style, ready to lay the beat down on you. Next, we have the Old Paladin and Warlock Mound quest bosses. Back in vanilla, these classes got their epic mounts through a lengthy and expensive quest chain. I won't go over them here fully since I have a whole video about these already, but basically, they required you to globetrot all across Azeroth, gather expensive reagents, and as a finale, you summoned a special boss that you had to kill to learn your mount. The Dreadsteed for the Warlock, and the Charger for the Paladin. The Paladin quest required you to get an exorcism sensor and a blessed barding, and you had to go into the basement of the Scholomance dungeon to summon the Death Knight, Dark Reaver.
So basically, like for these, I don't know for the quest of like warlocks, but first off, like these fucking like quests, like mounts even back in the day compared to other mounts, like they looked dope as fuck. But what was really cool about like the Paladin quest is that like for this event in particular, you will go to Scholomance. Actually, the best strat will be 5 Paladin with the quest, because you know, like back in vanilla, paladins had a lot of spells against the undead, and basically these spells were like really fucking useless most of the time. Most of the time, yeah. But basically during this quest and this one and only time, 5 paladins could fucking rush into Scholomance and fucking demolish someone that they get away, you know, like because basically like paladins had exorcism and scare the undead as well, but like basically for the quest you needed paladins anyway, and at least for me, I got lucky enough to win 5 paladins in, and it was such a fucking carnage. Like, it was so fucking fun to be 5 DPS paladin, basically rotting into this fucking like undead zone and just demolishing everything with like exorcisms and fucking fearing everything. It was really a cool quest, and then the boss, like it was really a cool adventure. Like, well, it was the only time where like all the spells that we got like during like the leveling process of as paladins were actually useful. Never found another time where actually like all these spells were useful as a paladin, and then paladin like they removed them. But like this, what at least like for my own personal experience, it was legitimate enough, because like 5 paladins in fucking Scholomance just like fucking like lighting up the place, using tons of exorcisms, like that was fucking dope.
You had to use special spells called seals against his minions, and it was actually a pretty unique fight. And for the Warlock, you had to summon the Demon, Lord Helnerath, in the Dharmal instance. You got a bunch of summoning reagents that spawned a bunch of demons for you to kill, and you and your party had to fend them off to summon Helnerath and beat the encounter. 2 really neat summoned bosses for 2 really neat epic quest chains. And since I mentioned those, I gotta mention the old tier 0.5 bosses. I covered this already as well, so I won't go over the whole chain again, but to sum it up really quickly, there's another dungeon set back in Classic called the Dungeon Set 2, or Tier 0.5.
Okay, so there was like the Tier 0 set, that was basically a set that you get from dungeons, and basically like the Tier 0.5 was like the epic version of the Tier 0. But it was so complicated to fucking get that like no one... See these armors? No one fucking ever got them. Like basically it was like a recolor skin, some of the which were really cool, but like it was really too complicated.
To get it, much like the mount chains, you had to undertake a huge quest chain that had you go all over the world, gather reagents, visit dungeons, complete challenges, and so on. Some of these challenges were to head to certain instances and summon bosses to kill. You had an enchanted banner that you used in the Blackrock Depths instance to summon a gladiator named Theldrin, the Soul Ashes of the Banished, which summoned an ogre named Cormac in the Scholomance dungeon, Druidical Remains, which summoned a Tauren named Morgreyhoof in the Lower Blackrock Spire, and an item called the Starbreeze Village Relic for a Night Elf named Assalian in Diremal, a Sword of Zealotry to summon a pair of bosses in Strathholm named Jirian and Sothos, and lastly, an amulet that you reconstructed throughout the whole chain to summon a Draconid named Lord Velthalak in the Upper Blackrock Spire. So these were neat little extra encounters, and they dropped some unique loot. Some still sought after for transmogs to this day. Unfortunately, the quest line is no longer available, but if you completed it back in the day and you kept some items, you can still summon a couple of them. It was one of the more epic quest chains from the past that led to some cool summon bosses, and my description really doesn't do it justice here. If you want to see it in detail, like I said, I did cover it. I'll have links in the description if it piqued your interest. Sorry about breezing through these last two, by the way, but this video is starting to get out of hand, and if I went into detail, it really would be an hour long. Plus, again, I did cover them already, so I figured that those who want to see the full scoop will check out the links in the description. Alright, I'm gonna sign off here, I guess. There's a bunch of secret or summoned bosses for you. All the ones I thought were worthy of mentioning anyways. I'm sure it's not perfect, but I think I hit the highlights pretty good. If you have any you think I missed, by all means let me know, and if there's enough for a part 2, I might come back to it. Anyways, I hope you found the video interesting or entertaining. Like it if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, someone to match season show if you didn't, if you love WoW. Like, this man is a legend. Alright. Okay, let's react to something else. I actually want to react to some music.
At the end of the day, the
music history. Like, I'm into music history lessons. I fucking love music, and shout out to the punk rock king NBA. He fucking made a fucking made a fucking channel that talks about like the fucking people, the fucking bands that I love in a way that doesn't fucking like make me fucking read Wikipedia pages to know who the fuck are the people that I'm listening to. So yeah, let's check out the strange history of the Offspring. The Offspring, quite the fucking band. They still fucking release songs to this day, and it's still fucking like legit. It still sounds fucking awesome. Cannot believe that they're still rocking this out. Anyway, let's check it out. I fucking love this band. If you never fucking listen to the Offsprings, don't, because like at this point, like you'll become a legend just because you were able to miss such a fucking good time. Alright, let's check it out.
More than anybody else, we're the band that really put that style on the map for millions and millions of kids back in 1994. What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock NBA, and today we are here to talk about The Offspring, a band that really hasn't gotten the credit that they deserve for honestly being one of the most important bands in the entire history of punk. It's true. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, didn't you say before that Pretty Fly for a White Guy is one of the worst songs ever made? And yes, I did say that, I do believe that, but it is still true. The Offspring did a lot for the culture.
I used to sing Pretty Fly for a White Guy in my fucking band. We even did a concert singing that.
I kind of think about it this way. If Green Day were the band that put the Bay Area style of pop punk on the map, then the Offspring were that for the Southern California sound, which 30 years later has proven to be by far the more important and influential style. And if you asked most people, including the members of the band, back in 1992 or something, if this would ever happen, they would have told you that you were crazy. So the question is, how exactly did this happen? How did they go from being just really one of 1,000 fairly obscure Southern California punk bands to selling over 15 million albums? And more importantly, what is their lasting influence, legacy, and impact?
Okay, for this question, so someone that like actually fucking studied all this stuff, and sadly like I live in fucking no man's land. So industries are different when you are like remote. But I'll tell you this, it's not the case for everyone, but they kept on going. This is like one of the things that like a lot of people do not understand about like entertainers as big, is that like these people, they got something and they kept on going no matter what. No, and it didn't work at first, and not at the second time, not at the third, not at the 10th, but they kept on going, and that's usually one of the reasons why they are still there. And why, and usually you can see that because past their like almost like like greatest all-time fame, right? Well, I was talking about it earlier. Well, the Offspring, they keep releasing songs. They keep fucking like doing touring and stuff. So usually it's people that fucking love what they do and they fucking like keep going. This is one of the things. There are like many other things, but like after like studying like this stuff, and I was like, how the fuck did they do it? You know, like it's so stupid. And I was like, oh, you're right. They just keep trying. You know, they just keep trying. And yeah, I thought it was like interesting to share, you know.
And also, why haven't they really gotten the credit that they deserve? Those are the questions that I will answer in this video. And also, I want to thank OneRep for sponsoring this video. OneRep is a platform that removes people's private records from over 100 people search sites and Google, which is important because what you may not realize is that people search sites like White Pages, My Life, and so forth expose your home address, phone number, information from your legal and property records, and a lot of other really sensitive data. And scammers can use that to do all kinds of things like open credit cards and accounts in your name, file fraudulent tax returns on your behalf, and so forth. This happened to one of my business partners, and trust me, it is an absolutely awful, nightmarish experience. Those data brokers also sometimes publish inaccurate information. So for example, someone does a background check on you and someone else's criminal record shows up associated with you. So if you want to help protect yourself against all that, you can do it with a subscription to OneRep. You'll strengthen your privacy and safety, dramatically reduce the risk of falling victim to identity theft and imposter scams, cut down on spam, and just get general peace of mind. Sign up with OneRep right now and get 60% off a 1-year plan with an exclusive offer for the viewers of my channel. Just go to the link in the description of this video. We are talking only $5.85 per month if you choose to protect yourself, and $11.95 a month if you sign up your whole family. And OneRep is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you even have a trial period to see if it's right for you. So in order to answer those questions, let me start at the beginning.
Let me just check one thing real fast. Okay.
Because the Offspring have actually been around for almost 40 years now, believe it or not. They started out way back in 1984 under the name Manic Subsidal. Not really sure what they were thinking of that one. Definitely not the world's best name. And they probably had the same thought because they changed their name in 1986 to The Offspring and put out their first album in 1989 on a label called Nemesis Records, which was really just like a small punk hardcore kind of label from Orange County that most people probably know for putting out bands like Chorus of Disapproval and Instead. Like I'm slipping away, I can't hold on, find that path alone. And although they don't really get a lot of credit for it now, the band,
you can already feel the vibe from the first records. You can already feel that they had a vibe that like they fucking liked.
Was most definitely a part of the DIY punk scene of that era. Like if you look, there are some absolutely wild flyers
that they found a vibe that they fucking like. That's what I mean.
Back then, first shows they played with bands like Final Conflict and Infest, Agnostic Front, and Fugazi. My favorite one is Neurosis and Chumbawamba at Gilman Street, and the next day it's The Offspring. But the first time I remember seeing their name was around 1992 when they signed to Epitaph and put out their second album, Ignition. Epitaph was a much smaller label back then than it is now, but they still did a lot more to market their releases than just about any other punk label. So I remember seeing a lot of ads and reviews and stuff for this album in kind of the underground press sort of circuit. But still, it really didn't catch on beyond kind of their core fan base, so I think absolutely nobody was expecting what was about to happen. The band went from being essentially unknown outside of Southern California to being literally on top of the charts almost overnight in 1994 with the release of their third album, Smash, and specifically the song Come Out and Play, which went to #1 on Billboard, and I would say is still my favorite song by The Offspring. And they proved that they were more than a one-hit wonder by following that up with Self-Esteem, which went to #4 on Billboard, and then Gotta Get Away, which went to #6. 3 back-to-back top 10 singles on one album. They were officially a mainstream success at this point. And before I go on, I really want to dive deep and give some context on this album and exactly why it was so important, because I think maybe people kind of sort of know this, but I've never really heard anybody talk about it. First of all, in hindsight, obviously Green Day ended up being the biggest band of that like mid-90s punk explosion, but in 1994 or 95, that was definitely not clear. At that time, I would say it was kind of like a three-way tie between Green Day, The Offspring, and Rancid. And actually, of the three,
Actually, it's unbelievable that fucking Green Day and Offspring were like the same era. I would have believed that like the Offspring were like at least years before Green Day. That's actually such a strange thought.
Offspring had charted the highest by a good margin. And although, as far as I'm aware, there wasn't any sort of rivalry or anything like that between those bands, in a sense, it really was kind of a showdown between the two big styles of pop punk at the time.
Hey, Chill Mill, thank you for the follow.
On the one hand, you had Green Day and Rancid representing the Bay Area Lookout Records kind of style that was centered around the venue 924 Gilman Street, with bands like Crimp Shrine, 15, Cringer, and Jawbreaker. And on the other hand, the Offspring sort of unofficially representing the Southern California sound, with the notable bands being Bad Religion, NoFX, Pennywise, Lagwagon, and so forth. And you may be saying to yourself, oh, that's interesting. Like, why have I never heard of these bands Crimp Shrine and 15? And that is exactly my point. At the time, the Bay Area scene was considered to be more credible and closer to quote unquote real punk by the, punk establishment, whoever the people are that decide those sort of things at zines like Maximum Rock and Roll. But 30 years later, it's very clear that the Southern California style has really had more staying power and is a lot more relevant and popular. And obviously Bad Religion played a big role there as well, but really at the end of the day, the Offspring, more than anybody else, were the band that really put that style on the map for millions and millions of kids back in 1994. And aside from just the impact of the Offspring themselves, the success of this album really made it possible for a whole generation of bands to succeed by changing the trajectory of Epitaph Records forever. For anybody who may not be familiar, just as a quick refresher, Epitaph was started by Brett Gurewitz, the guitarist and founder of Bad Religion, originally just to put out their albums, and then kind of grew into a label that was bigger than that. And although it was certainly successful for a punk label of the early 90s, it was hardly like a big operation. They sold something like 25,000 copies of the previous Offspring album, which by today's standards would be pretty good, but back in the early 90s when people still bought physical media, that was not a lot of records. And so neither the label or the band really expected much more than that from this album. I think this interview with Dexter from 1994 really kind of sums it up. The possibility of us getting played on the radio or anything like that was pretty much non-existent, especially because this kind of music is not generally considered acceptable by the mainstream. So for something like this to happen, it really took us by surprise. Because keep in mind, at this point, there's really no evidence that punk was viable in the mainstream, because this was still before Green Day had blown up, and the Offspring were still essentially a part-time band. Like, Noodles still had his job as a janitor at a high school in Anaheim. But still, after kind of taking off locally and then getting picked up on the radio all over the country, it ended up being a gigantic success. It sold over 6 million albums, and as far as I know, still stands as the best-selling indie release of all time. And with the money Epitaph made from that album, it enabled them to take chances on a lot of smaller artists like the Voodoo Glow Skulls and Agnostic Front. They put out a Tom Waits record. All these artists who they believed in creatively or for being part of the scene, but clearly nobody thought they were going to sell millions of albums. albums. But they could do that because of the money that they had coming in from Smash. It also helped independent record stores survive. I think Brett Gurewitz put it really well. He said that this album raised the sea level for the whole punk community. Even if you think that the Offspring were shitty poser stuff for kids who shop at the mall, this album was still the entry point for millions and millions of kids to eventually get into quote unquote real punk. Like, how many kids heard Come Out and Play and then got into NoFX and Strung Out, and then maybe they checked out Crass and Black Flag or whatever? Or maybe they saw that the Offspring covered bands like The Digits, or later on they did a song with Jello Biafra. Personally, I can't really say that I'm a huge fan of their music, but I can definitely recognize what they did for the scene by helping so many people get into punk. With that said, as usual, the punk scene had to find a way to view somebody else's success as a negative. Of course, along with Green Day and
Yeah, this is kind of like, this is the problem with so many, like, this is the problem with entertainment as a whole. Like, basically, like, wait, let me just listen.
They were added to the list of bands that real punks had to hate. And I remember the legendary 80s.
No. So basically, like, this is the problem with, like, the entertainment industry. Like, people become successful, it becomes a problem to some people. I never understood, and you can check within any type of entertainment industry, like any type of entertainment industry, like someone becomes big, someone becomes successful, even without without any like scrutiny or like any scandal, like following their fucking like rise to fame, and it becomes a fucking it becomes a fucking problem. It becomes a fucking like it became a fucking trend that I never fucking understood. Like, people like started to fucking like dig through, like search through the people past or whatever, and like try to find the fucking problem. And it's just like, at least like from my perspective, it's just like, if you really want to fucking be sure that you achieved a famous status, like, you have to start having haters. If you don't have haters, it means that you're not famous enough, that you're just like you're still mainstream. Like, this is such a trend that like I never understood. It is in every type of entertainment industry. This type of fucking like problem. Really funny, and like sometimes like for good reasons. Most of the times for like no reasons at all, just because haters gonna hate, but I gotta respect that haters gonna hate, and they do fucking hate, like quite solemnly, you know.
Southern California punk band Agent Orange in particular got really upset because they felt like that one surf guitar kind of part from Come Out and Play was a little too similar to their song from 1981 called Bloodstains.
Yeah, like, this is, I can't maybe, but like, come on.
Which I personally thought was kind of stupid, because as the Vandals pointed out in their song about it called Aging Orange, that's really just the Phrygian scale. So after onslaught and a panel of experts, I came up with a brilliant little plan. I'll take out my frustrations on one of these ungrateful new punk rock bands. But could you really expect anything else from boomer punks? In any case, regardless of whether you like this album or not, the point that I am making here is that this album was a big deal for punk. Every bit as big as Dookie. Which brings us to their next album, Ixnay on the Ombre from 1997, which put them in the kind of difficult position of having to follow up on this giant mainstream success. Everyone was wondering, could they keep the momentum going, or was that one album really all they had in them? Were they just kind of in the right place at the right time? And as history will now show, they answered that question with this album, which was kind of complicated by the fact that they left Epitaph over disputes with Brett Gurewitz. They ended up signing to Columbia Records. But in spite of all that, the album went to number 9 on Billboard, and the single Gone Away was another mainstream hit. Maybe not quite as big as Come Out and Play or Low Self-Esteem, but still a big song, and the album did go platinum and showed that they had staying power and that they were more than just a punk band. Like, I would consider Gone Away to be more of what you would call like a rock song that got picked up by a lot of radio stations that maybe wouldn't typically play a punk band. And with their continued success, they brought even more people into the scene. Which brings us to their next album, Americana, in 1998, which was arguably the peak of their mainstream relevance. Smash may be the fan favorite, but I think if you look now, it's worth noting that 3 of their top 5 most streamed songs are from this album. Which personally, I kind of question why. This album is best known for the song Pretty Fly for a White Guy, which I understand is an ironic song, it's a self-parody, whatever, but
It's kind of like the Into Deep of The Offspring, to be honest. Like, if you think about it, isn't that?
still, this is one of the most irritating songs of all time to me.
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly.
For a white guy.
Who really gives a shit what I think, right? Because regardless of my personal opinion, this song was a gigantic hit. It's super catchy. It was a huge song. It went to #1 in I think like 9 or 10 countries. Most of them in Europe, which I think validates everything that I've ever said about Europeans and their terrible taste in music. This album was also the first time where I'd say that they really changed up their style a bit. Up until this point, they'd really continued to play pretty straightforward Southern California style pop punk that, other than better production, really didn't sound all that different from their first album. But with this one, they went, I guess you would say, a little bit more pop, added in some sort of other elements like different kinds of percussion and stuff. Personally, I think this album is a little bit more corny and cartoonish than their earlier stuff, but I can also recognize why it's their most accessible. For example, like the horns and percussion in Why Don't You Get a Job? They also got a pre-fame Zooey Deschanel in the video for
I always felt that, like, Get a Job, it was a fucking, like, Christmas song. I could never listen to the song just because of how Christmassy it sounds. Like, I fucking hated that.
She's Got Issues, dressed like she is Ramona Flowers. Very, very 90s look. They also started to do more kind of larger pop culture stuff, which I get the sense that they also 90s look for She's Got Issues, dressed like she is Ramona Flowers. Very, very 90s look. They also started to do more kind of larger pop culture stuff, which I get the sense that they kind of sort of resisted a little bit before. Like, if you notice, they never did the whole late night talk show circuit that a lot of bands did, which I'm sure they had lots of offers for. For example, they were on the soundtrack to the game Crazy Taxi, which I remember playing a ton on Dreamcast until I just got absolutely sick of their song. But it was a great
That's some cool stuff.
game. They also had a cameo in the movie Idle Hands, the kind of horror comedy movie with Seth Green and Jessica Alba, where Dexter gets his scalp ripped off by a disembodied hand while wearing an AFI shirt. And speaking of AFI, this is also when Nitro Records really came into its prime, which is a label founded by Dexter and Greg from The Offspring in 1994, and had bands like Rufio, Guttermouth, and Jughead's Revenge, and most notably also put out everything from AFI up to and including the All Hallows EP. Basically all of the punk era AFI releases. And for sure, AFI was going to be big regardless of what label they were on, because they're just that good and the guys in the band are that smart. But
FI is really like something as well, yeah.
At the same time, the fact that Nitro was able to use the Offspring's platform to give them a little bit of a boost had to help, right? For example, him wearing their shirt in Idle Hands, or the Offspring covering AFI on the soundtrack for the Jim Carrey movie Me, Myself, and Irene.
This rage I cannot let go.
And of course,
Like, what the fuck is this song?
Irene, covering AFI on the soundtrack for the Jim Carrey movie Me, Myself, and Irene.
Alright. Okay, this is a song that I want to listen to. Okay.
I cannot let go.
And of course, as most of you know, AFI went on to be one of the most important bands of the 2000s and themselves did a ton to help the punk and hardcore scene. So again, I think you have to kind of give the Offspring some of the credit there for facilitating that to some extent. Nitro also put out a ton of classic punk bands like TSOL, The Damned, and The Vandals. And if you look at what the label has put out, it seems pretty clear to me that their goal was never really to like make a ton of money. It was really just to put out what they thought were great bands. And the money they made and the platform that they had with the Offspring really was just a way to help facilitate that. Nitro doesn't really get a ton of credit for it, I don't think, but honestly, they were one of the best labels of the 90s. Which brings us to what I would call the end of the Offspring's most relevant era, with Conspiracy of One from 2000. This one doesn't seem to be very popular with the fandom, but if I personally had to choose one Offspring album to listen to, I think it would be this one. Because to me, it's the one that sounds the most like a typical 90s Fat Records or Epitaph band. Like some band you would see play with Good Riddance and Pulley or something. I don't know if it was a conscious decision or just kind of worked out this way, but it seemed like they dropped most of the like goofy, cartoonish kind of stuff from Americana, with the exception of the song Original Prankster, which I think of as kind of like Pretty Fly Part 2. It's honestly a really good album.
Until the break of time, life cannot go by.
Yeah, Original Prankster, like they have just this vibe that's just like this happy and like really chilly vibe, you know, that in certain songs, but also like such depths to it. They went actually way darker after that, but like I really like this song.
And although the band never went away and of course continued to do well, they put out several more albums, including one that actually just came out last year that I didn't even know about until I made this video. I think after this album, they were clearly past their prime, both commercially and in terms of their relevance. So I'm just kind of gonna lump all that together. And by the way, that is not a criticism. Like, it happens to literally everyone because nobody can stay at the top forever, right? So that brings us to the last question. What is their lasting impact, influence, and legacy? Well, on the one hand, I don't really hear a lot of people mention the Offspring as a direct musical influence like you do Green Day. Like, I don't hear a lot of people say, oh, the Offspring, that's the band that inspired us to start playing music.
I think that like the Offspring is more of a vibe, you know, like they didn't last because like when it comes to messaging and stuff like that, because like a lot of like bands, like let's say Green Day, because they talked about Green Day, left like a political message and such in such ways that like are interesting, but also like in certain way dividing people. When it comes to the Offspring, they fucking did what I think is really like unbelievable is that like they fucking just did music. And they still just do fucking music. And while they have like there is a lot to them, and there is a lot there is a lot to say about them. Like, what's unbelievable is just that, like, they had no big issues, they had no fucking big huge scandals. They just like did their thing, and fucking like bother no one, and they did it fucking loving it. So you can see that like they fucking love what they do. And I think that like this is like something really special that like not a lot of people, not a lot of fucking bands like can fucking say that they did, you know. And I don't know. Yeah.
Music, but on the other hand, with tens of millions of albums sold, like I'm sure there are plenty of people who would say exactly that. But to me, their influence is more about what Brett from Epitaph said, that they raised the sea level for punk as a whole, along with Green Day and Rancid. Like I said, in particular for that Southern California.
I think that like they made this punk rock type of like genre accessible to many people. Where like when you think about punk rock, you think about like political messaging, like being against a society or some stuff, and some people are just into like cool musicians, like talking about like I don't know, fucking like about themselves, about like life, you know, like and is right, like they allowed a lot of people to actually enjoy like music genre that was really inaccessible because of how fucking like edgy it was, and how like just like inaccessible it was just because of political messaging, of how political it was, while the Offspring just rode the wave and just fucking like allow people to just enjoy what music for what it is, music, and just like without any of this like fucking butter that is a pick a side, and like fucking you're not like us, or like you're a fucking you're a fucking like show off, or this type of like childish nonsense that actually like a lot of people like fall into, and why a lot of people don't fucking like get into this type of like styles of bands, you know?
New style, which in hindsight ended up being by far the most important and influential version of punk, at least in the mainstream sense. I think their success also paved the way for that late 90s and early 2000s pop punk explosion, the what I call TRL bands like Newfound Glory, Blink-182, and Sum 41. And I say that because if you actually take a step back, I think that both sonically and culturally, they were a lot closer to those bands than Green Day were, who really seemed like they wanted nothing to do with any of that. Like, they almost thought they were too good for it. And personally, although I don't really love their music, I've always appreciated that they seem like really humble, chill, smart guys. For example, Dexter going back to school to finish his PhD in molecular biology in 2017, which obviously he didn't need to do. He's already rich and famous. It's not like he's gonna go work in the field. It's just that he seems to really love the subject and love education, and he wanted to pursue that, which I think is pretty cool. And really, in hindsight, maybe more than any of those other 90s bands, they really never walked away from punk as a sound or a culture. And think of how many millions of kids got into punk because of them. So next time you think of bands that made a real contribution to punk, make sure that you have the Offspring on that list. All right, my friends, that does it for this video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments of this video. Also,
This was a great video. All right. Yeah, listen to the Offsprings if you didn't. Like, it's good time. All right, let's watch some fucking memes real
at the
quick.
end of the day, the Offspring.
Fuck. Okay, let's watch some memes. The fucking cat, what the fuck?
Long live the king.
Hey, so do y'all like clear water, or do you guys more brown water people? Which one are you?
Sweet popcorn taste. Find
Fuck.
a complete breakfast. Corn bobbin.
Washing the car.
Oh my fucking god. Actually impressive. That's right.
Yo, can you read this?
What the f? I bro, this nigga crazy. Y'all are crazy.
This is fake as fuck. This is fake as fuck. Don't tell me that this is real.
Hi. You're such a sweetheart.
Like, I'm pretty sure that like this dude works in like into this like into this this fucking industry, but like you know, you and I, we have like normal hobbies, and some people, some dudes have fucking like gators in their fucking like bathtubs. You know, like sometimes kind of puts you in perspective, you know.
Aww.
What if Daddy doesn't want to walk? Oh. You'll just keep making that sound? Really? Till Daddy's head explodes?
Clean, Russell! No! No, Russell! No! Come on, Russell! Yeah! Yo, this is not happening.
Just
Till Daddy's head.
this is the fucking cat that we suffer like for like fucking a couple of years. That was like just going. Rah. Okay, no, I just need to be sure.
Yo, this is not happening right now. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Damn, boy. Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy. Damn.
This is cute. What the fuck?
Vyrah, sit. High five.
Oh, I got the smartest cat in the world. Have a treat, there's your treat, baby. Enjoy that treat, baby.
What the fuck? What the?
Oh, money. Better take some money, you know. Buy you more than that. No.
Oh no! What the fuck?
Así le gusta a Eric. ¡A la verga!
Oh my!
Get up. Damn.
What the fuck?
Oh no.
What the fuck is happening?
This was somehow an accurate representation of Final Fantasy Bringer. I don't even know why. Let's keep on going.
Gotta go. Get me out.
of
Okay. Remember them days when that's what I was nigga, me take care. I 24 when it's 20 years.
Let's go! We fucking a shit.
what the fuck?
Yo, stop fucking calling me, bro. Stop fucking calling me, man. Okay.
What a good snake. What a good stick. Alright.
Hello everyone, this is your
Alright, let's watch some more
Hello everyone,
internet.
this is your daily dose of internet. This company developed a fabric that has the ability to repair itself.
NCT is a fabric that can self-heal small holes and punctures to the fabric. NCT is a lightweight, water-resistant nylon ripstop with resealing and repairing capabilities. Naturally, nylon ripstop is extremely durable due to its endlessly repeating chains of building blocks that are woven into the crisscross pattern. When the already durable nylon is punctured, the nylon threads aren't actually broken. They're just pushed apart.
These
What
guys
the
wanted
fuck?
to see how accurate they could be while using their wingsuit.
That's fucking dope. And the scenery, look at the fucking view.
This is what it sounds like to beatbox using helium. And this is what it sounds like when you inhale sulfur hexafluoride.
Oh my god!
These are scallops, and this is what they look like when they swim around.
Oh yeah, I saw this. It's so strange. That should move around.
This is what it looks like when planes come in for a landing and there's a thunderstorm nearby. When the storm covers the airport, the planes scatter around like little ants. That's the end of this video. I just want to quickly mention that today's my birthday. I have a lot of fun making these videos, and I hope to see you again this time next year. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Later.
Alright, this was great. Alright, so this is it for the stream for today. I'll see you later, and as always, be toxic.